Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. Remember that if you want to be a part of this tech conversation, you can find us on SABC Network. Now that's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's newsnetwork@sabc.co.za on email. Now, Ugandan businessman Ashish Taka says he is developing a low-cost smartphone for Africa. Today on Twitter, we are asking you if you think this is a good idea. Here's what's coming up in the program. As Huawei says they're focusing on gaming and AI on their new smartphone, we are reminding ourselves about the recent evolution of mobile phones. New technology to be introduced at the DRC elections in December. All right, and our discussion is on biometric systems. Stan Khan, who is Managing Director at To Identify, is here for that one. Stan, hello and thank you very much for being a part of our network.
Thank you for being here. Happy to be here.
All right, how safe are these biometric systems?
Very safe. Depends on how you use it and where you use it, but definitely safe.
All right, so hold it there. We will have a deeper discussion about that later in the program. But first, your technology and social media news. Now, Nokia, BlackBerry and Apple have all dominated the mobile phone markets in the past. It seems to be Huawei's time as stats show massive growth for the smartphone maker. They've launched the Mate 20 Pro. Remember a time when mobile phones had black and white screens and were just for making phone calls and sending SMSs? Nokia once dominated that market.
My favorite phone ever was a 3310 that actually belonged to my mom, was passed down to me. And my favorite bit on that phone was the snake, that game. I think that takes me back to like the earliest days of gaming. And yeah, it's pretty basic, but it did the job. I mean, killed time, you know?
We moved on from there. Color and cameras were added. One could suddenly load music and other documents. Apple had its time in the high-end market.
My favorite phone in history would have to be the iPhone 5. I remember when iPhone, or Apple rather, introduced the new design language to their lineup of devices. For me, that was the phone that stood out the most. Looking at design and then looking at what you get, the interface or user experience that you get with the phone. For me, that was the highlight or my favorite device.
As time went on, social media became an important part of our lives. Sites like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram allowed people to share their photographs. Then there was a competition for good quality cameras, which led to Huawei's partnership with Leica.
Huawei has established itself as the best smartphone camera brand globally. If you look at P20 Pro, which was launched many months ago, and we have a whole lot of flagships launched afterwards, it still ranks on DxOMark right now as #1 and the best camera capability. So going on and continuously saying, I think word of mouth and consumer experience is talking for itself to say, well, Huawei has the best cameras.
This assisted in the mobile devices' growth as they've now overtaken Apple to take the second spot after Samsung in the shipment of devices.
We take advantage in innovation, especially in our flagship model. Every generation of the flagship model, we have the innovation, even compared to Apple.
The new Huawei Mate 20 Pro, launched in Johannesburg, focuses on gaming and artificial intelligence. They say their new chip card makes this easy to do.
Our lifestyles are going to change, economies are going to change, the way we work and the way we do things. So we're investing quite heavily in that to be able to better people's lives via AI. You know, your phone is an extension of who you are. It does everything for you. It's with you all the time. AI is not coming there to replace anything or to change drastically. It's coming to take care of the mundane tasks.
The Huawei Mate 20 Pro also comes with a wireless charging pad, which they say can power up other devices as well. It seems to be the best in the market right now and will cost you 19,000 Rand. At the University of Johannesburg, there was a discussion on how to improve financial inclusion. It seems the mobile phone is what many say will do it. Many Africans have mobile phones, even though most Africans don't have bank accounts.
Financial inclusion is on the rise globally, accelerated by mobile phones and the internet, but gains have been uneven across African countries.
The subscription rates are almost 1-to-1 for most countries, and sometimes more than, where most Africans have 2 or 3 mobile phones. Now the question then is, how do we actually start to provide services, true financial services to nationals of African countries who would not have access to this? And I think using mobile phones as one of the penetration mechanisms is the way to drive financial inclusion in Africa.
Countries like Kenya have largely enjoyed positive reception of digital payment. The use of mobile banking system M-Pesa has been used successfully for a number of services that includes electricity, water and transport.
The new leadership was ready for new ideas. So around the time when M-Pesa is coming on board, there were reforms that were taking place not only in the banking sector but also in the telco sector. It is in the telco sector that the competition for customers was interesting, and at this point Safaricom, being a telco company, was competing with others, and at that time actually they had the same kind of market share. They were looking for a way of serving their customers. I'm talking about the customer base of the telco company.
Driving financial inclusion is not without challenges, particularly in Africa, where cash remains king.
Financial services or banks or financial institutions are there to make money. That's their core, right? And in order for them to make money, they unfortunately then create exclusion. I think the solution comes from us ourselves as Africans who understand our Africans, creating solutions for Africans.
Quite a lot of people are excluded where ICT is concerned because of the limited devices that they've got. So if we're to expand understanding of devices to women all over, all stratas of society in South Africa, then that would mean that people are included.
The need to meet changing customer demand will force traditional financial service providers to continue to look for new ways to render their products. 2019 is expected to be the year of more widespread adoption of disruptive technologies for the financial sector.
There are mixed feelings over new voting machines in the Democratic Republic of Congo as elections draw near.
Much hope in the Democratic Republic of Congo rests on these new voting machines. Long-delayed elections are expected in the country later on December 23rd, and election officials see this technology as vital to holding those polls, believing it will cut costs and help reduce electoral fraud.
We are on schedule. According to our planning, we are right on schedule. Don't worry. According to our planning, the last containers will be arriving before the end of the month of October.
The election, which is meant to happen before Kabila's mandate expired in 2016, has been delayed for so long that many doubted it would happen. If it goes ahead, it will be Democratic Republic of Congo's first peaceful transition of power since independence from Belgium in 1960. But doubts about the voting technology have increased fears that polls will be marred by chaos. Presidential candidates recently met with officials from CENI to express their grievances over the use of the machines, but say the answers are still not satisfactory.
The biggest debate was around the voting machine and the voter registry, which contains some ghost voters. That was the main point of the debate, as well as the security of the candidates. But there has been no solution up until today. We have been having meetings with CENI, more meetings have been scheduled, and I am now apprehensive because we have 80 days before the elections. And what will these meetings accomplish? The CENI keeps saying that elections will take place on December 23rd. But how can we hold elections on December 23rd if we keep having meeting after meeting?
Congo's influential Catholic bishops have called for certification of the machines by international experts, and opponents reject the machines' use.
After the break, we'll chat to Stan Khan, who is Managing Director at Tool Identify. We will be chatting about biometric systems. So stay with us.
of us there in the NEC have our smallanyana skeletons, and we don't want to take out all skeletons out, because they will be, or hell will break loose.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Thank you very much for being a part of our network. Now, a lot of us often interact with biometric systems when using our mobile devices. They would ask for fingerprint authentication, and these days, there are those that read the iris as well. But they're used for security in workspaces. Intelligence officials of countries use these as well, as they're all over the banking sector. Joining me to discuss this is Stan Khan, who is Managing Director at To Identify. Hello, and thank you very much for joining me, Stan.
Good day, Supermela, and thanks to be here.
All right, so now, how do these biometric systems actually work?
So very simply, biometrics, as you know, is your fingerprint, is your face, iris, and all of these things are on your phone. And biometrics is basically a representation, binary representation of your biometric, so you can use it to interact digitally in the world today.
And a lot of people often think that it probably is the safest method you can use to check someone's security. Is it?
It is the safest, and the reason for that is biometrics is inherent to you. So biometrics is your face, your fingerprint, your iris, as I mentioned. So and biometrics is really about identities and identity management. So what we're talking about here is how do you verify or qualify who the person is that you're dealing with. So there's really three things that one has to consider. Firstly, there's something that you know. So you know a password, you know a PIN, right? But it's also something that you have. You have an ID card, you have a credit card, you have a passport. These are things that help identify you as a person. It's a credential, it's a document. And then finally, it's something that who you are, and that's biometrics. Biometric is inherent to who you are, and that's what's so fantastic about it, because you don't have to prove you are, you're biometric. So, and you have to be present. There's other big factor about biometrics. You have to be present, and you can prove presence.
With the other methods that you mentioned, like the PIN, for example, criminals often figure those out sometimes, and sometimes we've heard of situations where a camera would be above the keypad at the bank, at the ATM, and then it's filming you as you typing in your PIN and things like that. Can biometrics be cloned at all?
People have tried in the past, and in the old days they could to some extent. But what we have with the various modes of biometrics, take fingerprints for example. Fingerprints is, you can what they call spoof a fingerprint, try and create an image of a print and use that in the field. So what the technologists have done over the years is to build in mechanisms to make sure there's liveness detection. So your fingerprint sensor can also sense there's movement, there's some mechanism they can identify this is a real live finger, it's not a dead finger, it's not a picture or image from somebody's fingerprint. Similarly with face recognition, face technology on the cell phones, many of these technologies ask you to blink, to look left, to look right, look up, look down, and that's a way to make sure there's a live person on the other end.
And if I have a twin brother, it's still not going to work.
Yeah, that's a common question. So biometrics is so unique. Even twins have different biometrics. It is proven over many years, and it's been proven in law enforcement, in court cases where they have to prove certain things. It's absolutely, you can distinguish twins from each other.
And those that are worried about, so for example, because you say they must be live, so we need not worry about someone chopping off our hand, for example, in order to gain access to our data.
Correct. I mean, look, it's always a worry. People talk about the safety of a person if you start using it at ATMs, which a lot of the banks are looking at implementing biometrics at the ATMs to authenticate there. It's a concern, but one of the things that we do as technologists also to look at all the factors environmentally, what we can do. So what we're trying to do is to use multi-factor authentication. So you not use your fingerprint only, but also your fingerprint and your face in combination. And also your PIN, it's not forgetting your PIN, it's still something that you know. So a crook really has to know all of these things to try and take from you or steal from you.
What are the future use cases of this? We've spoken about the current ones, like the bank, for example, your mobile phone. What are the future use cases?
The future use cases are manifold, and one of the things that I want to highlight specifically, it's around video analytics. And so video, you're talking about face recognition, also object recognition. And what it allows you is to have a non-invasive type of way of identifying people. So here we think about things like in airports, for example. So where there's a lot of movement from people in and out. So what you want to make sure is that you identify people that are frequent travelers, people that are known citizens that are crossing the borders. And the ones that you really want to highlight, identify, you want to highlight them and look out for them. So the technology allows you to scan and use existing video footage that's out there and be able to use that.
And to identify, how do you guys work with biometrics?
We use biometric in different, we've been doing it for many years. Our major clients being in the government sector, so Department of Home Affairs, the police, in terms of identifying criminals. We also use background screening in a normal pre-employment way. Before you get employed, government people want to see if you have a criminal record or not. So those are some of the services that we provide. You just showed us an insert about elections. So that's one application where we do voter registration.
All right, Stan Khan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sure. Stan Khan there is the Managing Director at To Identify. Now, Uzalo actress Gugu Gumede told us about her favorite piece of technology.
Hey everybody, my name is Gugu Gumede and I'm an actor on Uzalo on SABC 1. Well, my favorite gadget right now has to be the iPhone 7 Plus because of all its great features, and the phone has been upgraded immensely. The picture quality is to die for.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees. Oh, bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you again. Well, we'd say the perfect way to pour a beer is at this angle, straight into your mouth.
Buy 2 6-packs of Castlelight Handies for only $109.99 from Tops at Spar.
She's a heroine of our struggle. She's really a stalwart of the liberation struggle of the people of South Africa. Because it will be remembered that when the apartheid regime banned the liberation movements in this country, that in the 80s, in fact, she was actually elected as president of the United Democratic Front. And she handled that position so adroitly, with such dignity. Apart from being a stalwart of the struggle, also as a mother and also as someone that became almost a widow while her husband was incarcerated in jail after the Rivonia trial. She was able to manage her home, to bring up the children, to educate them, without the assistance of her husband. So in many ways, we became colleagues also in Parliament, because in 1994 she was a member of the Assembly in Parliament, and again we worked very closely.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Now, North American car maker showcases luxury electric vehicles in Saudi Arabia, and Apple's Tim Cook addressed data security issues at a conference held in Belgium. These are some of the stories that made headlines in the rest of the tech space.
US-based electric car maker Lucid Motors is putting its first ever luxury car, Lucid Air, on display at Riyadh's Future Investment Initiative to promote the use of sustainable energy.
We're here to really promote not only the vehicle and technology behind the vehicle, but also sustainable energy. We see Lucid Air is really level 2.0 of kind of the shift towards EV. This car is really designed from the ground up with our cutting-edge drivetrain technology, but beyond that is a methodology to how the vehicle is laid out. And that's allowing us to make a fairly compact vehicle on the outside and a much, much larger vehicle on the inside.
Lucid Motors, showcasing a prototype of its ambitious 1,000 horsepower car, which is set to hit the markets in 2020, believes the vehicles offer an extension into the world of digitizing car use and making it more environmentally efficient. Now heading over to the UK. The United Kingdom will be highlighting its advanced technologies at the upcoming China International Import-Export, or the CIIE, which is scheduled to take place from November 5th to the 10th in Shanghai. My Hyper Sports, otherwise known as MHS, is a Manchester-based virtual reality company which provides VR training for football players.
If we were to do it in real life, you'd need 25 people to do that one drill, whereas you can do it without the impact and repetition 1,000 times in one, so the benefits are very accelerated.
At the Expo, the UK will set up a national pavilion featuring creativity and innovation. A total of 30 British companies from different sectors, including finance, retail, healthcare, culture, education and high-end manufacturing, will participate in the business exhibition. And now in Belgium. Apple Chief Executive Tim Cook said on October 24th that customer data was being weaponized with military efficiency by companies to increase profit.
We at Apple are in full support of a comprehensive federal privacy law in the United States. Artificial intelligence is one area I think a lot about, and clearly it's on the minds of many of my peers as well. At its core, this technology promises to learn from people individually to benefit us all. Yet advancing AI by collecting huge personal profiles is laziness, not efficiency.
Issues over how data is used and how consumers can protect their personal information are under the spotlight after big breaches of data privacy involving millions of internet and social media users in Europe and the United States.
Ugandan businessman Ashish J. Thakkar says he is doing an incredible thing. He says he is developing a low-cost smartphone for Africans. This would help a lot of people here. So we went on Twitter to find out if you think this is a great idea as well. Now, an overwhelming 74% say yes. There is 7% of respondents who say no. 6% of you say you don't know. That figure is in last place. There is also 13% of respondents who say this is not really important. That number is in second place. And that's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From me and the rest of the network team, have a good one. Bye-bye.